5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are live. Come to you live. Lichtman Live. Say what's up to the people, Dad.
Hey, I'm always happy to welcome our brilliant, savvy, knowledgeable audience who wants something more than the usual punditry. As they used to say on the old TV shows, big doings right now.
What TV show said that?
I think it was the Mickey Mouse Club. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
It was long before your time. We're talking about the 1950s.
Right.
Trump, as president, now owns certainly the longest shutdown in American history. 42 days, exceeding by a week the previous record of 35 days. We now may be on the verge of ending the government shutdown. 8 Democrats broke ranks to join with Republicans to get exactly the 60 votes needed to break the filibuster in the Senate. The bill now goes to the House, which is scheduled to hold a vote tomorrow. It's not exactly a sure thing. Republicans only have a couple of seats.
How many times I got to tell you? You got to wait for me to intro the topics.
Oh, sorry about that.
You do that every time.
I know.
Oh, man. Okay, before we get to that, there's some housekeeping stuff, too.
Yeah, good.
So we're back live, if you haven't noticed. We weren't gone for that long. We decided to try a new format, and we didn't really like it that much. This is our bread and butter, and we missed it, and we decided to come back. So we're back on our regular scheduled programming, and I know a lot of you, especially those who watch live, did not like the new format, so don't you fret. Here we are.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, right, at 9 p.m. as previously, and I really missed our interactions with our audience, and glad it's back, even though it's a little harder on this old guy.
Yeah, this is our bread and butter, right? We are Lichtman Live. It felt strange to not be doing it, and we built such a great community, and we have such a great community on these lives. It felt sort of strange just sitting here in this quiet room, like recording and not having the live chat and not having the live interaction. So here we are. We're back, and thumbs up. I also wanted to point out that you have no sling on anymore.
Correct. I'm well on my way to recovery from complete shoulder replacement surgery, which is a big deal. It took 6.5 weeks for me to get the sling off. I'm well on my way to recovery, but I still have a long way to go before I can start training in track from the next Senior Olympics qualifier in probably August of 2026.
I didn't know you had decided to. I haven't heard that you have decided definitively to keep doing the Senior Olympics.
Well, it depends on how the recovery goes. And,
okay.
If I'm down and out for 4 months, it's going to be difficult to get back into peak shape. We'll see.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know why the stream is screwing up again. I don't know what's going on. If anybody has any experience with this stuff, I have Ethernet connected. It says that we're dropping frame rates, and we're hovering between 5,000 kilobytes per second to 12,000. So I don't know what's happening. But
don't ask me. I'm an old dinosaur.
I wasn't asking you. I was asking the audience. Someone said, keep chopping, said the Lichtman Live shutdown is over. Nicely timed with the government shutdown ending and the Lichtman Live shutdown ending.
Nicely put. I know the Lichtman Live shutdown was much more important.
Yeah.
We're glad it's over.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into our first topic, since you went off the rails and started just going without our structure.
I'm suitably chastised.
Okay. So, a bill to reopen the government has passed the Senate, and we are now waiting on a House vote tomorrow, November 12th, 2025. It might not be for tomorrow for you if you're watching tomorrow, or 3 months from now. But many are calling out Senate Democrats for caving after only securing a Senate vote on health care. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, has not committed to any such vote in the House. Dad, it's the question everyone is wondering. Did the Democrats cave?
God, usually I give a very straightforward, clear answer. I don't have a clear answer this time. I see pros and cons to what the Democrats did. The obvious con is that they did not get Republican commitments to maintaining the essential Obamacare subsidies that tens of millions of Americans, tens of millions, depend upon for their life-saving health insurance. And Trump, as he always does, has thrown out, an absolute absurd alternative. After 10 years, Sam, when he's promised a better alternative to Obamacare, what does he come up with?
What we had before Obamacare.
Right. We're going to have individuals buy their health insurance. And he said, we don't have to go through the insurance companies. Well, who are they going to buy their health insurance from, Sam?
I have no idea.
The insurance companies.
Right, that's my point. If it's not the insurance companies, I don't know who the hell you buy
It's going to be the insurance companies. And guess what?
What?
If you get rid of Obamacare, you're not going to be protected against discrimination if you have a pre-existing condition. And something along the lines of 40 plus million Americans have pre-existing conditions. One of the great benefits for our family, Sam, was having you on our insurance until age 26. That saved you the anxiety of going through the insurance markets and probably saved you many tens of thousands of dollars. Guess what? Get rid of Obamacare. That is no longer going to be available. Plus, there's going to be no controls whatsoever on the prices that the insurance companies are going to charge. It's back to the old system where so many tens of millions of Americans simply could not get health insurance because of pre-existing conditions or because they were young and couldn't afford it on their own, or simply because they were priced out of the market. That's what, absurdly, Trump is offering us after 10 years of promising, we're going to have a big, beautiful health care bill, so much better than the Affordable Care Act.
Right, but you haven't answered the key question.
I'm getting to it, but this is really important.
Okay, it is. You're right.
The Democrats were never going to get the Republicans agreeing to a extension of the Obamacare subsidies. Even if the senators had agreed, you never would have gotten agreement in the House. But, with Donald Trump leading the Republican orchestra, there was no chance he was going to give in. Trump loved the shutdown, right, Sam?
I don't know. I don't quite buy that. That's your thing. I'm not
That's
sure
my thing.
Fully on
this enabled him to fire people.
Yeah, but he agreed to bring them all back as part of the deal for the shutdown.
But my point is, he loved the shutdown while it lasted. He could fire people. He could deny people their food aid and other aid. And by the way, to make my point, not only was he cutting off federal food aid to 42 million people who depended upon it, but he was using all the power of the presidency to try to stop the states from stepping in and filling the gap and providing vital food aid to the people of their states. Ultimate cruelty. And that was part of it. Trump looked at the shutdown as a chance to be as cruel as possible, just as he's being as cruel as possible with his use of ICE and his deportation policies. And I can certainly understand why the Democrats, even though it was Trump-inflicted cruelty, wanted to stop the cruelty being inflicted upon the American people, even if it didn't mean getting everything they wanted. I understand that. But I understand the critics who think, this was a capitulation, this was a cave-in. They at least got, and hopefully Thune is honest enough to follow through on this, the Senate Majority Leader, Senator Thune, that they are going to hold a vote in December. That's why I think in some ways, yes, the Democrats lost this battle, but they may ultimately win the war. The Republicans are going to be faced with a very difficult choice. If there actually is a vote on these subsidies upon which tens of millions of Americans depend, which are overwhelmingly supported by the American people. If they block it, they are going to have that albatross flying over their heads when you come to the 2026 midterm elections.
I totally disagree with you. I think this vote is a total nothing burger. I don't think the Democrats or the Republicans will even blink an eye at voting down all this healthcare stuff. They did it in Trump's first term. They're going to do it again, and they're not going to even.
They lost after Trump's first term.
Yeah, now
they had
Trump's
huge
back.
Losses in the midterm.
Right, but now Trump's back.
Elections. I understand that, but that was long after people forgot that. But if you have a December vote, that's going to become a huge issue in the 2026 midterm elections. And remember, Trump isn't going to be on the ballot. And he himself admitted, oh my God, can Republicans win? I don't think they can when I'm not on the ballot. Add to that a no vote on critical healthcare policy, overwhelmingly supported by the American people. I understand it's not ideal, and I understand why, you believe the Democrats caved and shouldn't, but they were never going to get anything better, and Trump was going to continue to inflict unimaginable cruelty upon the American people. So I think there are pros and con arguments. But what really bothers me, it's the same thing that bothered me when the Democrats went after their sitting president and elected nominee, Joe Biden. Democrats savaging one another.
No, I couldn't disagree more. There has to be some fight here. You can't just throw up your hands and say, okay, we can't talk bad about each other because we're in the same party. I'm sorry, but there's a big chunk of the party that I believe, and a lot of people believe, just totally caved. And I don't think it's fair to say everybody just needs to zip their lips and move forward. I don't agree with you at all.
I think they do, because whatever these Democrats did, it is a tiny fraction of what the real enemy has done, Donald Trump and the Republicans. Rather than savaging one another, they should be going after the Republicans. They should be saying the kinds of things I have been saying.
They do. People have been going after Trump for 10 years now. Come on.
But they're not specifically going after him.
You're saying the solution is to go after Trump? Come on.
Absolutely.
That's what everybody's been doing for 10 years.
And it's worked in the 2025 midterms. Going after one another was a disaster in 2024. And certainly, I can't say it was the cause, but it certainly contributed to counterfeiting at least one of the keys and contributing to the Democrats' defeat. There was nothing to be gained by savaging one another, instead of going after Trump and the Republicans, who are the real villains. The real villains are not Dick Durbin and Gene Shaheen and the other Tim Kaine. It is Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Mike Johnson, and the Senate Republicans.
Come on, everybody knows that. I don't think you're saying anything.
Everybody doesn't know anything. You got to bring it home. You can't, in politics, make assumptions that people don't even know who the senator is, right, much less follow all the ins and outs of the news. You got to bring it home to them. I have an op-ed that I just wrote, and I think we'll have a show on it. Harry Truman's Lessons for Democrats. And Harry Truman, in his famous 1948 whistle stop campaign, was known as Give 'em Hell Harry. He never relented. He never gave up on going after the Republicans. And by the way, he went after the Republicans for exactly the same things you should be going after the Republicans now, and many Democrats have. That is, that they're enthralled to the rich, they're undermining ordinary Americans, and they're threatening democracy. This was 1948 when Harry Truman was making these claims.
But now what? Now the Senate votes. They all vote no, like we all know they're going to. Again, this idea,
you mean the House votes?
I mean on the healthcare stuff.
And that's great. Hang them, do a Harry Truman on them, just like he made the Congress the point of his attack in 1948. And this is even more pointed because it's a congressional election, not just a presidential and congressional. Hang that on their neck and never relent. Give them hell, Harry, should be your motto.
I agree with the fact that, it was almost impossible to negotiate with Republicans because they were literally willing to starve Americans as a negotiating tactic. But I really don't think the Democrats got anything. They got this vapid vote that no one will. Again, you'd say that people don't pay attention to politics. I mean, in a year, who's going to remember this one vote and which Republicans vote? No one's going to remember that.
It's up to the Democrats to keep the issue alive, just as Harry Truman kept alive the Republican anti-labor Taft-Hartley Act in 1948, pounding on it. This is something that the Democrats can pound upon, and it's not controversial. Now, I understand your point. As I said, I think there are legitimate arguments to be made on both sides, but I can understand why some Democrats did what they did. And by the way, there's still leverage in the House. I'm not sure Republicans have the votes on their own to ratify the end of the shutdown. And maybe what Democrats need to do is hold out until Mike Johnson, the worst toady we've ever seen, the worst speaker probably in the history of the country, hold Mike Johnson's feet to the fire here.
But, you're thinking about this all from a political perspective. There's real people involved in this. I mean, there's real people's healthcare their premiums are going to skyrocket. I mean, you're thinking about this purely from a political perspective.
You missed my point. Okay. I said Trump is inflicting untold cruelty through the shutdown. At least you're stopping the cruelty. Okay, can I say a couple more things about the shutdown deal? And
yes,
then
sir.
I think we should go right to questions.
Okay, go ahead.
There's more to this than just the agreement on holding a Senate vote on the Affordable Care Act subsidies. There are some other very good things in this deal that people have overlooked. It includes an agreement to fund food stamps for another year. I repeat, fully funding food stamps, say that quickly, for another year. It provides $8.2 billion for the WIC program, which serves about 7 million pregnant women, new moms, and children. It provides $460 million for the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, which supplies food for more than 700,000 low-income seniors. It substantially boosts the appropriations for veterans medical care. So there is more to this that's good than just the vote. But here's the bad news, Sam.
Uh-oh.
This runs out January 30th.
Right. That's another thing that we didn't talk about in terms of this. It's like, this only funds the government for another, month and a half.
A little
2
more
months.
than that, yeah. Like 2.5 months. That's right.
I totally agree with you that when you're dealing with Republicans, it seems, and they're willing to literally starve Americans as part of their negotiating tactics. It's like, what are you supposed to do? I totally get that. But on the other hand, it just feels like all this pain, all this suffering, and essentially nothing came of it.
Well, as I said, there were a lot of good things in the bill. Certainly not what we would have wanted for the American people, but at least something. And that's why I said right at the beginning, there are pros and cons to this deal. But the big con, as always, is Donald Trump and the Republicans, not the Democrats. And our anger should be directed against them. Every American should be outraged that they are starving people in order to prevent people to get their health insurance. It's one of the worst things we've ever seen in this country on the part of a president and his party. One of the worst things we have ever seen in this country on the part of a president and his party. It is virtually unprecedented cruelty and callousness.
Yeah, I do agree with that totally and completely. I guess a lot of people are feeling, especially a lot of people, who have their health care up in the air. It's like, this didn't really solve anything. I guess that's where people are feeling a little bit let down by the Democrats.
I agree with that, and I understand that, but it's not as if they had held out another 10 days and people had gone hungry, it would have made a difference. They held out as long as they could. But again, pros and cons. It's not a clean cut yes or no. I think we should go right to questions.
Hold on, we're still chatting.
Okay.
Now I lost my train of thought. I was going to ask, do you think that the House vote tomorrow is just going to reopen the government instantly? Do you expect
I don't
that
know.
or what?
It's not a sure thing. I do believe it's going to happen. I do believe there will be some Democrats and almost all Republicans voting for it. I don't think at this point it's in the cards to keep the shutdown going. So my prediction is it will be a positive end the shutdown vote, and I mean just positive in the sense it's going to be a majority in favor.
And I want to say, I do agree with you that the first people to blame are Republicans, the people who are willing to starve people, or the people who aren't willing to help people with insurance. You're completely right. Those are the main source of blame that we should put. But I also feel like, you're talking a lot about 2026 and Republicans losing and them having to vote and, the ire of Americans they'll get when they vote. But what if, Democrats fought, they really fought, and they got health care done, and then they could say in 2026, look what we did to give you guys health care.
Sure, if that was possible, I couldn't agree with you more. But after 42 days, the longest shutdown by a week in American history, people going hungry, was pretty clear that wasn't going to happen. They gave it a good shot. That they extended it for a record length of time. It's not like they caved right away.
Yeah, they certainly didn't cave right away. That is true. Should we do I think we should do a poll. Did Dems cave? Yes or no? What do you think?
Or did Dems do the right thing in voting to end the shutdown?
Okay, so that one. Did Dems...
Putting caves kind of biases in.
Right, okay. Did Dems do the right thing by ending the shutdown now, right?
By voting to end the shutdown now in the Senate.
All right. Did Dems do the right thing by voting to end the shutdown?
To end the shutdown.
No. Okay.
Good poll.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see, because when we were arguing, the poll was going, our chat was going crazy, and people were going, Sam's right, Allan's right, listen to your dad, listen to your son. It was like every other thing. So obviously this topic has people pretty divided along.
Yeah, that's why I said it's not clear cut. It's not, good and evil here.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to, unless there's any of these topics you really want to talk about. Giuliani.
No.
Thanksgiving dinner.
No.
Mail-in ballots.
Yes.
Okay, you do want to talk about that.
Really quickly.
Okay, really quickly. The Supreme Court has agreed to rule on whether states can count mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day, a decision that could end up voting across at least 30 states ahead of 2026.
It's an outrage what Republicans are doing. They're doing everything in their power to make it more difficult to vote or not have your vote count. You should not be dependent on the vagaries of a very dubious postal service to have your vote count. As long as it's postmarked before Election Day, that means it should be a legal vote, and it shouldn't matter, as many states have agreed, whether it arrives after Election Day. This, along with a wholesale attack generally on mail-in ballots, an attempt to impose a documentary citizenship requirement, which has the potential to disenfranchise 20 million people. It's a war on the vote, just as they're waging a war on food and on your health. They're waging a war on your vote, and this is one skirmish in that war.
I just heard you burp.
Oh, you have to tell everyone?
Oh, sorry. All right, let's get to some questions. Our first one is from Philip A. Oh, thank you for NGOC for becoming a member. Philip H. says the shutdown capitulation was organized. 3 of the 8 senators are retiring, and the other 5 won't be up for re-election until 2028 and 2030. When our politicians are cowards, what hope is there? I guess he's on my side of things, less on your side.
Yeah, I understand, and I don't disagree. But there is another side, which, we've discussed extensively. It's not as if this is clear-cut black and white. I get it.
All right, our next question is from BME Wright. They say, I strongly feel we need new leadership in the Democratic Party. Democrats have a lot of weak leaders that have let Trump get away with criminal activity over and over again.
Well, I'm not sure there's that much they can do about Trump's criminal activity. Let's not forget, he was convicted of 34 felony counts in New York. He was indicted for incredibly serious federal crimes, 2 different sets of indictments, which carried with them many, many years in prison. And that was sidetracked, not by anything the Democrats did, but by the Republican-appointed conservatives on the Supreme Court. They impeached Trump twice. No one president has ever been impeached more than once. And in the modern era, the only other president was Bill Clinton. So, it's very difficult at this point to hold Trump accountable for his criminal behavior. I wish we could, but we tried. And he was convicted, and the Supreme Court derailed, and the Trump favorable judge derailed in Florida the serious federal indictments.
Secular Monk says...
Oh, by the way, let me finish.
Yes, sir.
I agree we need new leadership in the Democrat. We've been talking about that forever.
True. You have
Sam
been
and I.
saying that for a long time.
Absolutely. Chuck Schumer needs to be replaced.
This is from Secular Monk. They say, Republicans will put a poison pill on any vote. And yes, I believe Democrats caved. If Democrats think that Republicans will honor anything discussed, they are, that's what they said. Republicans have no morals. Democrats have no spine. They used your own quote.
My own quote, and I don't disagree. And I am worried that Republicans, as always, are being dishonest and are not going to honor their commitments. That's a legitimate worry. And the audience member is correct.
This is from CD. They said they agree with you that it's a bad narrative to shaping focus on only 8 of 48 Dems when 52 out of 52 Republicans voted that way. Why are Dems always saddled with the burden of being the only conscientious party? That's a good question.
That is a very good question, because they are.
Right. That's, yeah.
Remember, Democrats have no spine, but Republicans have no principles.
Good point. Sharon Novak donated $10 and said, I agree with Professor Lichtman, I think she's saying son, 100%. Jacqueline with a $20 donation. They say, thanks, Alan and Sam, for all you do. Oh, and for your mom, too. Yes.
Oh, our mom is phenomenal. She's saving the world. We're not doing that with her incredible pack on climate change.
Do you think Republicans would have folded once the airport shut down completely and business folks couldn't go to meetings? The billionaires might have pressured Trump.
I talked about that previously, and the one thing that could hurt them would be if the billionaires' travel was affected. But I just read an article, and Sam is much more expert than I am, that those flying private jets, Trump's rich friends, have not been at all affected by the flight cancellations.
They certainly haven't been affected by the corporate flight cancellation because they don't fly corporate, they fly private. Any airport that has experienced air traffic issues is going to back up all air traffic, whether it's private, whether it's the airlines, etc. Yes, they probably haven't had to deal with cancellations, which is much better than your average flyer.
Yeah, they haven't been hurt much, according to this article. I'm not an expert.
Thank you to Lady Bird Lee and Jim Fitch for becoming a member. Appreciate that a lot. One of our members, Ritanch Han, says, just when you thought Dems were going to grow a spine, they come around and disappoint yet again. I guess it's pretty repetitive of what we talked about.
Yeah.
Axel Moreno says,
we don't disagree with that. Absolutely. But, I'd love to say this is one where the outrage is clear on one side. There aren't two sides to this. Unfortunately, sometimes issues are cloudy, and this is one of them, where one can make arguments on either side. It's easy to condemn. It's much harder to defend.
This is from, I remember, Axel Moreno. They say, a state judge in Utah has ordered the state Congress to add a solidly Democratic seat. Did you hear about this? What are your thoughts?
I did. It's very important. Let's not forget, Trump started the mid-decade gerrymandering wars. Typically, you only redistrict congressional lines after the census so that you conform to the one person, one vote Supreme Court criteria. It's very unusual to have mid-decade redistricting. And Trump initiated it by pressuring, didn't take much to pressure Governor Abbott of Texas to redistrict an already terribly gerrymandered map to get 5 more Republican seats, at least to try. And that initiated the redistricting wars. But the Utah decision shows this could backfire on the Republicans. That's likely to add a Democratic seat. California could add 5 more Democratic seats, counteracting Texas. And all of these Republican gerrymanders are under litigation, and who knows how they may come out in the end. And, if the off-year elections are any indication, and Democrats way outperforming expectations, in order to create more Republican districts in a state like Texas, where it's already heavily gerrymandered, you're going to have to shave a lot of these districts fairly close. They may still lean Republican, but that doesn't mean they're going to go Republican if Democrats do as well as they did in 2025.
Is it possible for Senate Dems to hold a meeting for the purpose of voting to replace Schumer as its leader if 20% of them sign a letter? Should this be considered?
I don't know the rules of the Democratic Party, but certainly Schumer can be replaced if a majority of Democrats want to replace him. I'm not sure there's enough spine in the Democratic Party to do that.
This is from Evan Soloway. Thank you for being a member, Evan. They say that Trump recently floated the idea of a tariff rebate of $2,000, which he would send to Americans struggling financially, similar to the stimulus check from 2020. Wouldn't it be funny if Trump wound up the first president to introduce universal basic income?
Yeah, wouldn't that be incredible? And this is a bribe. It's going to balloon the deficit. Federal government can always just pay people, and is that check going to go to Elon Musk, or is it only going to go to people who need it? How much is it going to blow up the deficit, and what will have to become cut back to offset it? Plus, we know Trump floats all kinds of things that never come to pass.
Right. He's also, have you been following this? He's been talking about a 50-year mortgage now. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm not. Saw him floating that, yeah. And it's taken a tremendous amount of criticism in terms of how it could, in fact, undermine the housing market and lead to another kind of 2008, 2009 crisis. And again, Trump throws things out randomly. We're just going to pay Americans to pay for their health insurance.
Yeah.
We're going to bribe them with $2,000 checks. We're going to give them 50-year mortgages. It all sounds great. But, the devil, as always, is in the details. And Trump is not big on details, is he, Sam?
No. And I still don't quite understand. He's claiming that they're getting all this money from tariffs, and that's how he's going to pay for it. This $2,000 rebate. Specifically, not the 50-year mortgage.
But he's still running huge deficits. Right. It's not as if the tariffs have given him a surplus that he could dole out. This is just going to balloon the deficit. He can always write checks to people, but that has consequences. And if if there was a surplus, fine, but we're in a big deficit. Remember, Trump is always I'm going to bring down the deficit big time. You never see anything like it. And he blew a huge hole in the deficit in his first term. And so far in his second term, the deficit is rising at record or near record numbers.
Tina reminds us, did anyone get that Doge 5K check? Remember Doge?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
They were going to save so much money that they were going to hand people $5,000. Let me tell you guys something. Doge is a sham and a fraud and an embarrassment to this country.
No kidding. One of the worst things that's ever been done. And also cruel. Yes. Trump and his billionaire friends are living in luxury, having these, lavish Gatsby type dinners while people are being fired, losing their jobs, having trouble keeping a roof over their heads, feeding their kids. People are losing their essential food stamps and in jeopardy of losing their health care insurance. Is that the new golden age? Well, it's golden for Trump, right? Who gilded his office with gold, who's put up gold signs, who already blew up the historic East Wing to build a 90,000 gilded ballroom with a price tag of $300 million and up, because he wants to be like Louis XIV of France and the Palace of Versailles.
And don't forget that Elon Musk, his shareholders just voted to give him a $1 trillion pay package. Now, it's contingent on certain goals and certain goals within the company and their stock price and all that jazz. But don't forget, this is the guy that ruined thousands of people's livelihoods, and now he's getting $1 trillion
reward.
Package. It seems like there's no righteousness left in this world right now.
There's very little, and I'm not a big Bernie Sanders fan, but he and AOC have the right idea. The only way you're going to deal with this incredible gap between the very rich and the rest of us is to start taxing wealth. Instead, and almost nobody knows this, Sam, in addition to the big abominable bill, which has all these tax breaks for multimillionaires and billionaires, quietly, without fanfare, without going through Congress, Trump's IRS has issued a series of directives that add on top of this new tax breaks for the very rich that are going to cost the Treasury and benefit the very rich to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. This isn't something that went through Congress. It's like so much else that Trump has done. It's by executive fiat. And because it's by executive fiat, almost no one knows about it. Did you know, Sam?
No.
Nobody does. How much time do we have left?
Well, we're at 10.
Well, it was because we had the break. Let's go a little longer.
This is from Patrick Murray. They say, the right has been pairing Vance with Erica Kirk, who is the widow of Charlie Kirk, a lot lately. Do you think there is a potential to see a Vance-Erica Kirk ticket in 2028?
Certainly, Vance is by far and away the front runner for the Republican nomination. He thinks he's a younger version of Trump. He isn't. He doesn't have the pizzazz, the appeal to the base that Trump has. In fact, he's kind of a ridiculed figure. I'd be shocked to see the widow of Charlie Kirk on the ticket. Charlie Kirk, I'm not celebrating his death. I mourn his death.
Erica Kirk.
Yeah, but I'm saying Charlie Kirk has so much horrible stuff on his record. We had a whole show on that I don't think they want to open up that Pandora's box by having his widow on the ticket.
Should we check in with the poll?
Yes.
The poll. Did Dems do the right thing by voting to end the shutdown now? 37% say yes, 63% say no.
That's about what I would have expected.
Yeah.
It's not, it does show. Usually our polls are overwhelming, right? 80, 90% one way. This shows it is a gray area.
That historically, has any other president spent as much time behind the wheel of a golf cart as Trump has?
Well, there have been presidents who've done a lot of golfing. Eisenhower was blasted for his golfing. So was Obama. Nothing like Donald Trump. And it's cost the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. Again, you're firing people, throwing them out on the street, and we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on Trump's golf habit.
I don't know how I missed this, but somebody sent a big donation earlier. I think it was because I saw it, but then I was just dealing with the
technical problems.
issues. Somebody sent 500 Danish krona. Who was that? Let me double check.
How much is that in dollars?
$77.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you. They said this was from. Hold on 1 second.
Sure.
You're trying to hand me this stuff. I'm trying to figure this out right now. I can't see his name. H. Madsen.
Thank you.
They said Hey, if the stream is lagging a little bit, it's all my fault. I'm sending coffee and pastries via the fiber optic cable from Denmark. How it's going over there in the States. Madsen from Skanderborg, Denmark.
Nice.
Thank you, Madsen.
I love Denmark. I've been there.
You have?
I have.
How come I've never how come
I was there before you were born.
You never told me that.
Oh.
The poll, it's gone up to 64% now say no. 36% say yes.
All right, it's about the same.
All right, I think with that, we'll wrap up the show for the night. We went an extra 5 minutes.
Yeah, thanks for those donations. That may give us some wherewithal to upgrade our system here.
Well, I seem to have fixed it. I mean, since we've gone live, we have 0 drop frames, and we've been streaming anywhere between 9,000 and 11,000 kilobits per second. So,
as I've always said, Sam, you're like a genius.
It seemed to be some sort of internal issue with OBS. Usually when there's a advanced setting with an OBS where you can deal with the networks, and you can usually just set that to default, and you don't have to deal with specific IP addresses and Ethernet connections and stuff like that. But I just messed around with it until it worked, turned it off at default, but usually it works. So I don't know, it seems to be working. So hopefully on Thursday, next show, we won't have any issues. Dad.
Yes.
What are your final words?
Final word. Yes, we can differ among ourselves whether the Democrats did the right thing or not. And as I said, I usually see black and white, right and wrong. I think this is a gray area. What we cannot disagree on is the incredible cruelty and inhumanity of the Republicans and Donald Trump, the way they have used and manipulated the shutdown to harm the well-being of tens of millions of ordinary Americans. As I said, it's one of the worst things I've ever seen from a president and his allies in Congress.
No doubt. I guess we'll have more information on if the government is open on Thursday, so stay tuned, and we'll see you Thursday.
Good night.